I'm national correspondent Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Support for Israel, long a bedrock of American foreign policy, is becoming an increasingly divisive issue inside both political parties. Now, some prominent conservatives are warning President Trump he could be the last strongly pro-Israel president the U.S. ever elects. Support for Israel, one of America's closest allies, is sinking at an alarming rate on the left and on the right. The wars in Gaza and Iran rapidly reshaping American opinion. Some of the most prominent voices in President Trump's MAGA base have split with him very publicly on Israel, like Tucker Carlson.
It's an attack on American leadership for not constraining its partner in a way that helps the United States. Trump refused to even criticize Netanyahu in public. Are you joking?
And former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I voted to defund American tax dollars going to Israel.
Among Democrats, negative views of Israel are even higher. 8 in 10 Democrats now say they view Israel unfavorably. Pro-Israel Democratic Congresswoman Haley Stevens was booed last month at the Michigan Democrats' spring convention. And Abdul Al-Sayed, running in the Democratic primary for Michigan's U.S. Senate seat, campaigning with controversial anti-Israel influencer Hassan Piker, who has been slammed for anti-Semitic statements, including defending Hamas.
That's a competent military operation.
Oren Siegel with the Anti-Defamation League slamming the campaign tactic.
I think that's a huge problem that we're seeing. It's something that we're seeing, honestly, on all sides of the aisle leading up to the midterms. And it's really important that leaders lead by not normalizing the hatred that many influencers are peddling.
A CNN poll from late March found nearly half of Republicans and more than 7 in 10 Democrats said support for Israel was causing problems inside the party. Conservative activist Laura Loomer recently claimed she told President Trump he could be the last pro-Israel president we ever have, a warning she says the president agreed with. The White House has not confirmed that conversation. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
I'm Atra El-Nashar in Washington. Iran is still reviewing details of a peace proposal from the United States. President Trump says if Iran does not accept, the U.S. will resume strikes on Iranian targets. For a second day, the United States, mediators in Pakistan, and the rest of the world waiting for the Iranian regime's response to a proposed framework that could ultimately end the war.
You know, in diplomacy, there is no standard metric system evolved which would say that how close or how far we are towards a settlement. I wish there was.
President Trump unexpectedly canceling scheduled press availability Thursday while hosting the president of Brazil. Many hoped Trump would include an update on where things stand with Iran. America's main objective is still to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, but restoring trade in the Strait of Hormuz has emerged as a top priority as oil and gas prices soar. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says the U.S. must lift its naval blockade on Iranian ports before Iran opens the strait. According to the Washington Post, a CIA analysis delivered to the White House this week says Iran can survive the U.S. naval blockade for 3 to 4 months before Iranians feel significant hardship. In a message to the Iranian people, Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says the enemy has pinned great hope on economic pressure. And the more economic pressure the Iranian nation faces, the more they will endure hardships for the sake of their country's independence, dignity, faith, and beliefs. With a deal still up in the air, the Trump administration is turning to the United Nations Security Council to turn up the pressure on Iran to open the strait.
That's what's at stake here, and nothing less than a cornerstone of worldwide stability and commerce. Iran's indiscriminate mining and tolling efforts in the Strait of Hormuz are textbook violations of international law.
In another attempt to turn up the economic pressure, the U.S. Treasury Thursday imposing new sanctions on a top Iraqi energy official accused of diverting oil sales to benefit Iran. 3 leaders of Iran-backed militias in Iraq also hit with sanctions. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
As we come on the air, President Trump with a direct warning to Iran's terror regime: sign the peace deal or all bets are off. We are fast tracking Those moving developments as new attacks in the Strait of Hormuz threaten to shatter a fragile ceasefire. And good morning to you. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is Friday, May 8th, and we want to now welcome our Charge viewers live with us on the East Coast and recorded on the West. This morning, President Trump making it clear Iran better get on board with the U.S. peace plan or risk another round of overwhelming strikes. In the meantime, we are monitoring a new wave of attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. forced to take out multiple Iranian missile and drone launch sites after coming under fire. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the very latest right now. Mark, good morning to you. Even with these new attacks, Trump still expects to get a deal done soon.
He wants that done within the next 7 days. Jan, good morning to you. The president certainly is hopeful that this will get across the line. Iran, though, is going to have to be fully on board with the proposal that the United States is offering. The president says he is going to threaten and continue to up those threats that we will continue to bomb Iran if this deal is not done soon.
The talks are going very well, but they have to understand if it doesn't get signed, they're going to have a lot of pain. They're going to have a lot of pain. They want to sign it. I will tell you, they want to sign it a lot more than I do.
Now, while those talks continue, CENTCOM forces in the Strait of Hormuz were forced into action in the past 24 hours. Leaders say the Iranian military launched a wave of drone and missile strikes against U.S. forces in the waterway. CENTCOM forces were able to defend their warships. In return, they knocked out a bunch of Iran drone and missile launching locations. Meantime, we're also tracking the economic standoff starting to form between the United States and China. Chinese leaders have ordered their companies to disregard any U.S. sanctions and continue to purchase Iranian oil. Under the directive here, companies can ignore the U.S. sanctions on Iranian crude oil and continue to buy it. The United States is trying to cut off Iran from selling any oil at all in an effort to drive them back to the negotiating table. You'll recall the president does have a planned visit to China next week. So with that going on, there's a bit of a divide. We'll see how he handles that when he travels overseas. Jan, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. While the blockade holds firm in the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. is turning up the pressure, targeting Iran's remaining financial lifelines. The Treasury Department has put Iraq's Deputy Minister of Oil on notice, accusing him of diverting oil profits to prop up Iran and fund terror groups across the region. In a post online, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wrote, like a rogue gang, the Iranian regime is pillaging resources that rightfully belong to the Iraqi people. Treasury will not stand idly by as Iran's military exploits Iraqi oil to fund terrorism against the United States and our partners. At the same time, momentum is building against Iran. A growing number of Arab Gulf states are now siding with the White House. Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates are backing a U.S.-led UN resolution that would open the door to new sanctions and further action against the regime if attacks on shipping continue.
The problem is, just this week, Iran's own state media announced that the regime has launched what it calls the Persian Gulf Straits Authority, where it seeks to demand that all ship captains from international shipping, commercial shipping, civilian shipping, basically have to check in and pay a bribe, pay a toll in order to use these international waterways. So that doesn't just affect this region. It infects.
Russia and China are expected to try to block the resolution. Regardless, President Trump is still set to travel to China next week for a high-stakes summit with President Xi Jinping. Those meetings will kick off on Thursday.
Good evening. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for being here. We begin this half hour with new details regarding U.S. strikes in the Strait of Hormuz, where military officials said 3 Navy ships came under attack. Let's go to Ryan Smith at the live desk to break down what we know so far. Ryan?
Yeah, here's a breakdown right here of what we know tonight. U.S. CENTCOM now says no U.S. ships were hit, confirming that U.S. forces eliminated those inbound threats today and targeted Iranian military facilities, including missile and drone launch sites there. Now, late tonight, President Trump describing the scene, saying 3 American destroyers escaped the Strait of Hormuz with no damage suffered, all while under fire. Here he is.
They trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
Earlier today, Iran's UN ambassador vowing that they are ready, in fact, to allow freedom of navigation right there through that critical Strait of Hormuz. If the war permanently ends, a deal is made and the U.S. lifts its blockade.